The RCWR show with Lee Sanders is proudly sponsored in part by Audible.com. Sign up for your free trial today at audibletrial.com/the RCWR show to get one free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Audibletrial.com/the RCWR show.
Enjoy all episodes of the RCWR show on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio.
Covering the latest in entertainment and beyond since 2011, you're listening to the RCWR show. And now your host, as featured on Wrestling Inc. and TNA Insider, Lee Sanders.
For Saturday, June 21st, 2014. What is up, boys and girls? It's your old pal right here, Black Avenger, a.k.a. the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders, and you are checking out an all-new weekend edition of the RCWR show. We got a jam-packed episode for you guys, as we're going to be talking about Mick Foley, who had came through the Washington, D.C. area this week. He was at the D.C. Comedy IMPROV, and man, was it that damn good, as he had brought his Hardcore Legends tour through the nation's capital, doing his one-man comedy routine. I wasn't alone to go check out that event. The beautiful and the lovely Tammy was with me, and we're going to be talking about the overall experience in just a little bit. We're also going to get you guys hooked up on the very latest in wrestling, entertainment, headlines, as I'm looking very forward to talking about what a big week it's been for TNA Wrestling, as they had crowned a new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And folks, I'm not talking about at their Slammiversary pay-per-view. No. They crowned a new champion on a new and somewhat live edition of Thursday Night Impact Wrestling. We'll definitely give you guys the 411 on all of that. Also hook you up with the very latest in WWE, Ring of Honor, OVW, and I have some Shine Wrestling news, as it's been a good while since we had showed the Shine Wrestling promotion some love, but we'll definitely hook you guys up with the latest on what we know, what's going on about with that promotion, and more as we cover all things entertainment and beyond. As always, you can kick on back and interact with us a couple of ways. Hit us up on Twitter at the RCWR Show, Facebook at Infinity Wood Productions. While you're there, give our page a like, pretty please, with sugar on top. If you are having somewhat of a hard time accessing this episode or your tablet, desktop, computer, whatever, you want to kick on back, spell it down, 646-478-3525. One more time, that's 646-478-3525. Listen to the props so that you can listen live to us. Depending on how much showtime is left, will determine if we're going to be taking phone calls or not. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and, let's jump right into it. Tammy, before I kick things off, I definitely need to take a nod to those that access our shows through Stitcher. I have to thank you guys tremendously. I don't know how many of you all actually follow us on Facebook and Twitter, mainly Facebook, because that's where we're most active the most with our listeners and fan base. But I had put out a message with a picture basically saying, hey, Stitcher family, I love you guys because you all have helped us get in the top 800 shows on Stitcher. And we've been on Stitcher now for like about almost 2 years, and our rank had started off at like 9. There's like at least 8 nines in there. I might be exaggerating, but there's definitely more than 3 nines. I can definitely say that much. There's at least 5 to 7 nines in there. And I was just so amazed. I had to do a double take and be like, what? And because of you guys that access us on Stitcher, we are now in the top 800 shows that's on there. I'd love it if we could make it in the top 500. And I mean, I always tell you guys, word of mouth is the key. I get asked all the time, Lee, is there anything that I can do to try to help spread the word about your show? Yeah, just do that. Spread the word. Open your mouth. Let one friend know. Let a family member know that's in the wrestling and everything else that we do on this show for you guys every single week. And that's how you can really pay the most ultimate homage. I mean, if you can't afford to buy our merchandise, that's cool, man. We don't hate you as a result of that. We still love you guys. But if you are trying to figure out how to help us out, that's the best way to do it. Just all word of mouth. And Tammy, it's nice to see that we're at a point right now where it's like we're really starting to make our mark, so much so, and we're going to be talking about this a little later, but so much so that we have people, I guess, ghosts of past, trying to scratch at our door and trying to come on back in good graces with us and everything. But Stitcher family, I definitely want to say a big heartfelt thank you for checking out our shows. And hey, man, just continue to support us, spread the good word. You know, Stitcher family, I'd love to know what you guys think about our shows. I see that there's a couple of people that submitted reviews and all that. But, you know, if you've yet to submit a review for us on Stitcher, do so, man. It only takes a couple of seconds, and let me know when you submit that review. I'll definitely go out of my way to give you guys a nod the next time that we're on the air. I've got no problem giving you guys shout outs, but yeah, rate us, give us a review, let us know how we're doing, man. But thank you so much for the love. Top 500, let's make it happen.
Absolutely.
All right, so Tammy, let's go on ahead and let's talk about our experience at the DC Improv. Great location too. It was actually my first time going there. I had heard so many stories, but I never had the opportunity to go there. And of all the times to go, I picked the best one for, like, this was my first comedy show, believe it or not. So for me to kick it off the way that I had kicked it off, I mean, pretty damn good. I'm betting a really good average right now, folks. I mean, first two concerts I went to go see Robert Plant and his new Band of Joy. And then afterwards, I saw Soundgarden with Mars Volta. And so my first comedy show ends up being the hardcore legend himself, Mick Foley, with his opener, Jared Stern. And my God, I mean, you talk about fucking hilarious. I mean, first things first, let's give a nod to DC Improv. And Tam, you just jump on in. I'm going to try to pause and let you definitely get your piece in there as well. But I mean, when we first got there, and you know, we're still fresh off of what was now like a week ago that we had talked about our bad experience at California Pizza. I want to say California Kitchen Pizza. I don't know why I keep wanting to say that, but I know that's not it. But the bad experience that we had there with the customer service and everything. And like, here we are, we're at the DC Improv, downtown Northwest Washington, D.C., 1100 block of Connecticut Avenue. For those of you that want the specific address, 1140 Connecticut Avenue, Northwest in Washington, D.C., not too far from M Street and DuPont Circle. And we went there, and I mean, the customer service was just awesome. From the moment that we walked in, we said, hey, table for two, Lee Sanders, and we went on in there, and we had got our host, who was, I think his name was Steven, yes.
Yeah, Steven.
Yes, Steven. He was great. And I told him, I said, look, man, because he asked us, he said, where would you guys like to sit? You can sit here, you can sit here, you can sit here. And I told him, I said, well, what's up with those seats over there? Because we want to try to be as close to the action as possible. And rather than just be like, well, you can either sit here, here, or here, he was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, well, come on. Let me show you what I got available over there. And so he took us on over there. And I told him, I said, look, man, I really appreciate you doing this. Really means a lot. I asked him what his name was and everything. And he shrugged it off. He said, man, I'm just doing my job. I said, I understand that. I said, but no, I was like, it really means a lot. I said, it really means a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I still am going to put in a word for you. So, Steven, I kept my promise. And then we had got our waiter for the entire night. I believe his name was Leo. And Leo was freaking awesome. I mean, Leo pretty much interacted with us like 4 times. The first time it was like, what do you guys want to drink? The second time it was like, okay, so do you guys want to eat anything? He brings the food back. And then it was, anybody want refills? You guys are good. You had got your refill. And then the fourth time I would get my refill, Because believe it or not, guys, I actually only had 2 Heinekens of the night, and my ass had a really nice buzz. That combined with some good comedy, I was good for the night. It's rare that I drink, first of all, so for those of you that want to be like, Lisa Pussy, he can't drink. And it's like, I can drink with the best of them. The thing is, I don't drink enough because the way my schedule is, my black ass has to get up for some type of work the next day. So I can't really drink like I would want to. Not unless I know there's like a 3-day holiday coming up. Then I can just have right at it. And Tabby, tell them about how I noticed this. You've been denying it, but I noticed it. How you basically had ended up getting a little bit tipsy, hammered almost there.
I would not say hammered. Well, first off, it was kind of funny as far as our waiter Leo, who was awesome. You know, he really did a great job. He kind of was, you know what, you need anything, let me know. You know, I'll check on you a couple times, but basically, I'll just leave you be. I don't want to, you know, just overwhelm you.
That's how he came off, yeah.
And so basically, I said, okay, you know, I'm at a comedy club. Why not have a drink? And as I am not a drinker, you know, very much at all, every now and then. So I said, well, I think I'll have a mixed drink. He said, okay, so what's your preference? Rum, gin, vodka. I said, well, rum's not too bad. And he said, well, what kind of drink would you like? I said, well, you know, fruity's usually my style. And he said, okay. He said, you trust me? I said, yeah. Okay, but you know, whatever. So it comes back and I taste it and it was pretty darn good, actually. So, you know, I was drinking my drink and about halfway to 3/4 the way through, it's kind of like, feeling good, feeling the buzz coming on right about now. So I finished the drink, and of course that was the last one of the night. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a rest of the night at all. I would have been asleep. But basically finished the drink, and I said, okay, I'm gonna stick to soda for the rest of the night. But in the interim, you know, I was, you know, laughing it up with Lee, and we were sharing stories and so on and so forth. And Lee seems to think that I was just a little relaxed. I don't know if I would say hammered, in no shape or form. As the night went on, that would wear off a little bit, but you know, it was a good drink and it was a good show, and we're going to get to telling you a little bit more about that in just a little bit.
How about those nachos, though?
Very good queso and nachos.
Yeah,
yes. The IMPROV, I recommend that as an appetizer, especially if you have you and some friends. The portion sizes are huge for appetizers.
Yeah, they really fill you up big time. If you just want to go with the appetizers, you know, because see, what I ended up doing was, because I was waiting on Tammy, I actually had got there first, and I like being at a new place I've never been to before. I like getting there extremely early so I can look around, see where everything is, and kind of be prepared for when it's actually time to participate in whatever event that's going to be happening there. So I got there probably, they said doors were going to open at 6, but I ended up getting there at about maybe 4:45, so like 4:45. And I'm standing there and I'm kind of like, all right, so what's going on here? And I saw like maybe 1 or 2 people, but I didn't think nothing much of it. I saw them go downstairs. I'm saying, oh, well, maybe they're employees. So I look at my watch or the clock on my phone, and I said, hey, I got some time to kill, man. So I actually went down my old stomping grounds, not too far from where I used to do a little bit of security work. Went on down M Street. I think it was around the 1700 block. I'm not really sure now. It's been such a long time since I've been down there in DC, but yet I know, you just put me in the middle of DC, I pretty much know where everything is because I grew up out there for so many years. But I went to my old stomping grounds at the McDonald's, and I grabbed myself a chicken club grilled sandwich, grabbed some orange juice, grabbed some fries. I said, ha ha ha, I'm going to show those guys they're not going to get me on the menu food because I'm going to have this over here for $8 and not pay $16, $25. I wasn't sure how much they were going to be charging, you know. So I actually did pretty good. So by the time I actually got there, Tammy didn't have dinner yet. So I told her, I said, you know, whatever you want to eat, you know, me, you know, I just want my damn Heineken. Just give me a good cold Heineken. I'm good to go. The Heineken, by the way, coldest fucking Heineken I've ever had. It was so damn good. I'm telling you, see, there's some guys, you know what I'm talking about. You go to your bar, local, wherever, Hooters, whoever, man. You go to your local bar, and there's just some places they give you like a chilled bottle of beer, and your ass is just chug 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 chug. You're trying to hurry up and drink that shit because it doesn't taste good when it gets warm and hot. It just doesn't taste good, and you don't want to waste that beer, especially if you're paying like anywhere from $4 to $8 a bottle. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
more.
right, and more. You know, so you're trying to hurry up and drink through that. There, DC Improv, my beer was fucking ice cold. It lasted a good while. Whatever they did to that, I mean, I was happy. I was in euphoria that night. I said, finally, ice cold beer that I can take my time and fucking drink. I like that. And Jared Stern, we got to talk about him because he had pretty much kicked things off like right around 7:30. I thought maybe Mick Foley was going to come on at 7:30. But their whole thing was, now that I think about it in retrospect, they said the show begins at 7:30. They never said Mick Foley begins at 7:30. They just said the show begins at 7:30. And Jared Stern was the one to kick things off. This is a local guy. Funny as hell. Funny as hell, man. I mean, when he first came out, I thought he was Putty from Seinfeld. And those of you that's kind of like, Putty, if you know your comedy and all that, well, you've seen enough episodes of Seinfeld. Basically, there was like a couple of seasons where Elaine kept dating the same guy, and his name was Putty. And so when I first see Jared come out, I thought it was Putty, and I was like, oh, it's Putty from Seinfeld. No, it wasn't Putty. But he was funny as hell. My honest opinion, I thought he was funnier than Putty. I really don't think Putty's that funny. But yeah, Jared Stern, man, funny as hell. Great routine that he went through. Tammy, tell him a little bit about some of the routine that he went through with us.
Well, my goodness, his set was really nice. It started off a little slow, and maybe due to the fact that he was a little nervous, or you know, maybe just didn't quite resonate, you know. But I mean, maybe the first 1 to 2 minutes. Then it really picked up, and you know, he had some really funny jokes. He was actually someone with somewhat of a tummy, and he said, I've read the most disturbing, you know, article today that basically belly fat, you know, is now, you know, causing Alzheimer's. So he said, well, you know, I didn't like that much, and, you know, I try to do what I can to cut back and so on and so forth, and da-da-da-da, and then all of a sudden, you know, he said, well, I'm so glad I don't have that problem. He said, you know, I read the most disturbing article the other day.
Yeah.
He said that belly fat causes Alzheimer's, you know. And it was kind of funny, you know, for those in the room who got it. Some of them were like, huh?
Yeah.
But, you know, that was one of them. And then, of course, the other one was, he said, you know, I read in the paper that Family Dollar is actually kind of having some financial troubles. So he said, well, they're closing about 400 stores. He said, well, lucky for them and us, that's about $400 and lost profit.
Yeah.
So, you know, those were just some of the jokes, and believe me, guys, he's much his delivery and everything else is much better than mine. But
I think the best way to describe Jared, witty, definitely witty, kind of backhanded sly type of humor.
Right.
And it's definitely that type of humor that, like, if you don't catch it the first time he lays it out there, you're
It's
gonna
gone.
or you're gonna understand when you process it a few seconds.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's the best way that I can describe him. But I mean, I think, you know, he's 39 years old, 38 going on 39.
38.
I mean, I think if he hasn't been going places already, because I mean, I took a look at him on Twitter and I see he doesn't have that many followers. Maybe after this, we could send some love his way. But if he hasn't like really skyrocketed just yet, I think it's just coming down to that one night that he's there doing his routine and somebody goes, I need this guy to be involved in this new sitcom that I'm trying to do or something like that, because he's that funny. He does have great presence. He was able to command the stage very well. Seemed like a very seasoned vet and all that, and there's no telling, because he really didn't go into details about how long he's been doing his thing as far as comedy goes. So, I mean, he could have been doing it for 15 years. I don't know, because it was my first time seeing him, just as it was your first time. But I tell you what, I'm definitely going to be doing my homework after this. And so much so that, well, I don't want to put it out there right now, because usually when I put a little spoiler thing out there, other people try to latch on to it. But you longtime listeners, you read in between those lines, I think you might know where I'm kind of getting at right there with regards to Jared. But I want to show Jared some love. Follow him on Twitter at Funny Jared. That's funny, and then Jared, spelled J as in Jack Nicholson, A as in Apple, R as in Rover, E as in Easy, D as in Dog. Funny Jared. One more time on Twitter at Funny Jared. And if you end up following him through us, let him know, hey, Lee Sanders of the RCWR show, he said to follow you. He said you were really funny. Said he saw you at DC IMPROV. Trying to show you some love, man. I'm sure he'll definitely appreciate that. Let's talk about the headliner of the night. He is a 3-time WWF champion. Man, doesn't get any better than the hardcore legend himself, Mick Foley. And Tammy is going to definitely be able to share her thoughts on Mick Foley, because she's still relatively new to wrestling. So she can definitely talk about her experience seeing Mick Foley do his comedy routine in a way where she's not a Mick Foley fan. She's not a hardcore Mick Foley fan. She can honestly just rate this guy on, okay, I'm getting Mick Foley the comedian. That's how she can definitely rate him. Not so much on the wrestling. She's at a disadvantage with that. But she could definitely talk about this new endeavor that he's taking part in as far as comedy goes. And I'll just set it up for a couple of minutes and kind of throw it back to Tammy, and we'll just kind of ping pong that way. But I loved how Mick Foley came out, and I love how he just got us all nice and just really into it in the first few minutes, because he brilliantly was talking about how familiar he was with DC, especially. You know what? Actually, let me back up a second. I love the fact that really the way he kicked things off was by saying, guys, the show that we had on Tuesday night, that show got added kind of like almost at the last minute. And, me being the guy that I am, yeah, I'm definitely about making the money. And then that had got a chuckle from the audience. And then he said, all the money that we're doing for this show, as well as what we did with the Tuesday night show, it's all going to a very worthy cause. It's all for charity. It's all going to r.a.i.n.n, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And you can find out more information on that at www.r.a.i.n.n, with 2 N's in there, right? .org, www.r.a.i.n.n.org. And so a lot of the money that was going to be raised at these 2 Mick Foley nights of comedy was going to be going towards r.a.i.n.n. And he was telling us how, you guys, you represented early on. You guys made this event get sold out as soon as the tickets went on sale, like back in March. You guys represented. And he was like, yeah, the other show, it got added. But he was like, I know that this show is going to be better than the other one, because Tuesday night was actually pretty rough. We had learned a couple of things. And he was basically talking about how the crowd was I kind of got the impression that the crowd really wasn't into his stick, his what is it?
It's actually shtick.
His shtick. Yeah, they weren't exactly into it. And I don't know if maybe that was just because maybe like a combination. I think the comedians, they're always able to feed off of the crowd. That's always been my take. Kind of like what we do with our listeners. We know if we're doing a bad show because we're going to hear about it. We can kind of feel it, but we can also see and hear it with our listeners that's interacting with us and all that. So we kind of know, maybe there should be a short show tonight. We know. So I don't know what was up with the crowd that first night, but I did think it was a little messed up that, oh man, they got first strike and oh, now what? And they did a meet and greet with that first show, but the way Mick Foley had explained it, he said they did the meet and greet for that first show first, then they did the comedy. And basically, that was one of many things that they learned from that first show. They were like, we don't want to do that with you guys because then we have to rush through the routine. It'd be better if we just went through this first, and then after the end, at the end, we can do the meet and greet. And he was telling us how he had photographs for sale and all this other cool stuff. And it was funny how he began talking about how many of you out there are proud that the streak is over. Of course, Undertaker's streak. And you just heard a boatload of boos. And you heard a couple of cheers. And Mick Foley was like, allow me to explain why I feel the streak should have been broken by Brock Lesnar. And he just took us through this great elaborate story while mentioning the nation's capital. And I love how he was telling us at the first show how that one guy had got on his knees. And Mick Foley said, whoa, dude, we're not in DuPont Circle.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Before that, he had I think he was talking about his apparel and lack thereof, as far as in the sign of the times. And he said, when I used to wear this Friends suede jacket, and he said, even at that point, it made Daniel Snyder give him a call and say, whoa, dude, that's a little offensive there, isn't it? As far as the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And I of course, the joke he did was much funnier than what I just said, but you get the gist.
Yeah, the way he delivered it, it was like...
Oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, have some decency, man, because it's like, if you know what's been going on over here in Washington, D.C., especially with football and all, you know that the Washington Redskins, they got hit with a major blow from Congress this week as far as registering the Redskins name and all that, the trademark and all that. They weren't able to get another extension, so there's no telling what's going to happen with the Redskins. Now, for people that have always been offended by that name, this is a huge victory for them because they're one step closer now to seeing the Washington Redskins get renamed. So Mick Foley was just so on point with a lot of the DC references that he made, really letting you know he's familiar with the area. He's done his homework, which is funny because that's something that he would kind of talk about with me one-on-one when I had the opportunity to chat with him and take a picture with him and everything. But his routine, it was just really awesome. And for those of you that's like, well, what did he have to say with regards to Brock Lesnar? Basically, Mick Foley's whole argument was the streak needed to end in a way where whoever it was that was gonna defeat Undertaker, they would be able to take all that heat of, oh, this is bullshit, man, F that guy sucks, or whatever, because the way Mick Foley broke it down was, at the end of the day, Brock Lesnar doesn't give a shit about any of us. He doesn't care. And if he needs to do something that's gonna be an unpopular move, he's the right guy. He can take that heat. I kind of can't help but, another good analogy, I kind of can't help but think about The Dark Knight. And like towards the end, after Two-Face dies, after falling off the ledge with Batman and everything, Commissioner Gordon, he's about to call it in. And Batman's like, no, this isn't how they need to remember Harvey. And Gordon's like, but after everything he did, Gotham lost a really good hero. And Batman was like, no, they didn't. They didn't lose a hero. He'll forever go down in history. And Gordon's kind of like, wait a minute, I think I see where he's going. And Batman's like, call it in. He's like, no, if I call it in, you're going to catch the burden of this. That means that we're going to have to chase you. And he's like, then hunt me. And basically Batman's whole deal was, I'm not the hero that Gotham City needs right now. Gotham needs Harvey Dent. One day Gotham will accept me, but until that time, give me the heat. I can take it. I've already been called a vigilante. I've been called all these other things over the past couple of years. Give that to me. I can take the heat. And that's kind of the way I kind of interpreted what Mick Foley was saying about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar has always been at the subject of, oh, well, he's not really that good of a wrestler, or, oh, well, he sucks because he's a part-timer. Do I think it sucks that he doesn't participate in the WWE more like that? Yeah, but at the same time, I don't lose sleep over it. I get excited every single time Brock pops up. Even if he's been gone for 3 months, 6 months, I still get excited, every time. I still get excited the same way as when I saw Brock Lesnar first make his debut. Do I think it sucks he's not on a full-time basis? Yeah, because at least that way you could say, well, at least Undertaker's streak ended to somebody that's a full-time guy instead of a part-time guy. But even at that, Mick Foley even kind of shot that down and was like, Brock is Brock.
Well, and honestly, with him not being there all the time, every day, day in, day out, it also adds to the mystique of his character. So with adding to the mystique of his character, it actually hypes him up.
It does.
It's kind of like, honestly, you love mac and cheese. You have mac and cheese every day in and day out, day in and day out. Eventually, you're going to say, okay, really? I am damn tired of this. I want something else. So, but you love mac and cheese and you only have it, I don't know, once a month. How much better is that mac and cheese going to taste to you if you love mac and cheese if you're only having it once a month versus once a day?
It's funny you mentioned mac and cheese because true story, when I was in college for about a year and a half, every single fucking night, and Tammy knows this story, but I've never said it on air. Every single fucking night, I would eat mac and cheese, the shell kind, with a chopped up hot dog. So basically, the way I would do it, folks, I would get a box of mac and cheese. I would usually get Velveeta, and I'd do my thing. I'd hook it up, and then I would take one hot dog and I would chop it up, and I would just keep chopping it up in little pieces, break it down into smaller pieces, and break that down into smaller pieces till I couldn't cut anymore. And then I would throw it in the mac and cheese. I would take about 2 slices of American cheese, Kraft cheese as well, and I'd mix it all together, put some black pepper in there, put some red pepper in there. I'd grab a slice of white bread, put it in there, a little Tupperware, and that would pretty much be my dinner like 5 days a week. I mean, the way I did my proportions back then, I mean, I was micromanaging like that. I mean, when you're in college and you're on your own and you're trying to make ends meet and everything, and then you're juggling work at the same time, money's going to be kind of tight for you, unless you have rich parents that's like a phone call away. Oh, lovey, what do you need? Something like that. But yeah, to follow up on what Tammy just said, after about 2 weeks, I got sick and fucking tired of that damn mac and cheese. Whenever I got paid for my job, I would treat myself to a nice big old fat platter of fried chicken, French fries, mumbo sauce, can of Sprite or ginger ale, and I would enjoy the hell out of that because I knew next couple of weeks,
Monday, mac and cheese.
It's be mac and cheese. It's like that goddamn mac and cheese and hot dogs. And I remember my roommate used to always take little jabs at me having mac and cheese and all that. He's like, "Oh man, you doing that again? You really like that, huh?" I was like, "I'm just trying to do what I can to survive, man." And he would always, almost every time I was making mac and cheese and hot dogs again. And finally, I just said to him one day, I said, "Look, if you that sorry for me, well, come up out of your pocket and buy me some groceries. Oh, he shut the fuck up after that.
Yeah, well, most times if that was put to you that way, most people would.
Right, but yeah, exactly, exactly, and yeah. So for me, Brock Lesnar, I don't have a problem, and I agree exactly with what you're saying. It does add mystique to the guy and everything. But Mick Foley, the way he just told the story, along with the great jokes that he had in there, I loved when he talked about his time in Japan and he was working with Terry Funk, and they were laying down the C4s around the baseball field or whatever. And
Yeah, that was
Big Foley told Terry, he said, "My God, man, if we put any more C4s out here, we aren't gonna have a place to work." And Terry was like, "It's okay, it'll be all right." I mean, it was good stuff.
No, and I think somewhere in that story he said, "Oh, I think we can fit one more of those C4s right in the middle."
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it was awesome. Of course, a question that seems to never be able to elude Mick Foley, that came from a small Q&A portion of the show, had got his thoughts about Triple H, and if he feels that Triple H hasn't given him his just due over the years. And Mick Foley, he quickly just shot that down really quick. He was like, "Look, let's be for real. It's not like I helped Triple H move." And the whole crowd just started erupting. It was just the way that he said it. It was like you couldn't help but laugh at the way he said it.
That was really funny.
Yeah, and it was because then he followed it up with, "Hey Hunter, yeah man, thanks for helping me move that sofa, man. It really means a lot." But no, he was like, "Look, I was just in the right place at the right time," and he's like, even Triple H talked about this over the years on a few of his DVDs. At the end of the day, Mick Foley's whole thing was, it was just about what made good business at the time. And yes, was he, as Cactus Jack and all that, still white hot, very popular and all that? Yeah, but Triple H had already done what he needed to do. I mean, if you really kind of go back, Triple H was already popular. He was already on the map. He was already a main event guy prior to working with Mick Foley. I mean, it goes as far back as to once Shawn Michaels retired the night after WrestleMania 14, and Triple H was left with the ball to run D-Generation X as its new leader. He took it to new heights. He did. Did Mick Foley play any type of part? And honestly, if Mick Foley was not there as Cactus Jack or Dude Love or Mankind, if you just eliminate Mick Foley, would Triple H had been as successful in the WWE? I still think he would have, whether Mick Foley would have been there or not.
I think so too. I mean, don't get me wrong. One hand probably washes the other to a certain extent. But, when you're destined for greatness, it's honestly within you. You do what you have to do. You make what you have to make happen. Whether it be Mick Foley or Shawn Michaels or whoever. It is what it is, and you work with who you work with. They either make you better or they don't. And in this case, Mick Foley, was there to help him make him better, and also, increase his own stock.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of stories that Mick Foley had told. I mean, we could sit here and we could just almost dissect every single thing that had happened. But I mean, let me put it to you this way. What he did, which felt like maybe it was about 75 minutes long, or maybe 90 minutes. I'm hoping it was 90 minutes. It just seemed like time went by so fast. Because I think by the time he was done, it was like about 9:30.
Yeah, I think it was about 90
Yeah,
minutes.
it was about 90. One thing I do want to point out that I thought was very interesting, there was this little irritating woman that, I mean, the first two times that she talked, it was kind of cute because Mick Foley had went to her, asked her a question, and I think she said something like, where are you at right now? Or something like that. And that had got a chuckle out of people. And then there was a second thing that she said, and it was kind of like...
Wasn't it like, will you sign my baby? Was that the same girl?
Not the same girl, no. No. Remember, that was the girl that said that. That was the girl that was babysitting for Foley.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently Mick Foley's daughter Noelle and the woman that asked that question about could you sign my baby, apparently the two of them were related to one another. Okay. But no,
Okay.
the other girl, I mean, this girl, guys, she was like in her own little freaking world. Because, like, the first time she said something, it was kind of cute. It was like a lighthearted chuckle. And the second time, it was kind of like, stop while you're ahead. Let's get back to Foley. And then when it came to the Q&A portion, he didn't take that many Q&As either. He probably took like about at most maybe five questions. Yeah, five, maybe six questions. But she was one of them. And she asked him something. I can't remember what the hell it was, but it was something very silly and stupid.
Well, basically what had happened was at this point there was a question asked of, what actually, well, first of all, it was asked, okay, will we ever see you in another wrestling match?
Right, but that came after she tried to interrupt him or get involved in his routine for a third time. What you're getting ready to say, and go ahead and continue saying that. I just want to set it up for the folks. Once that question about what you're getting ready to let them know was put out there, she interrupted for a fourth and almost final time because she actually had interrupted him for a fifth time. And her fifth and final time was it, because after that, he kind of went on her.
Right. Well, I wasn't familiar with the fourth time or didn't hear or what have you, but basically at this point it was set up that, okay, would you ever consider getting back in the ring? And actually most of the crowd answered for him and saying no, but he went on and did some storytelling on that, which basically led to, I was in the doctor's, basically what he said, I was in the neurology office when my career ended, when he started to tell me. And then you had Miss Cousin It here, who basically said, I don't even know what she said.
It was so incoherent, but it did not sound like it was related at all to what Mick Foley was talking about. It actually threw him off. I gotta tell you guys, as far as Mick Foley's execution, he was spot on. I mean, on every single little thing, every single type of interaction that he was getting from us, he was able to feed off of that, bounce off of it very brilliantly. Mm-hmm. But when he was telling us or trying to tell us in depth about, hey, this is why my career is over, this is why I'm never going to be getting back in the ring, it was a really intimate moment right there where he was being really real. Other than talking about R.a.i.n.n, he was getting really real right here. And she fucked it up. I mean, she took a nice big fat shit on it. And Mick Foley had to go, sweetie. And he was talking kind of sarcastic, but kind of like, it was kind of serious and annoyed at the same time while trying to be polite. He's like, he was like, sweetie, I'm trying to tell the story here about how my career ended.
It's kind of important.
Right. And, he was like, let me tell my story. And then she interrupted him again. And this time she said something like, I'm not stupid or some shit that.
I think she said, why, I don't want you to think I'm stupid, or I didn't want to sound, like the question was stupid or something like that.
Right. And Mick Foley actually had to come back to her again. And I was definitely one of the most vocalist guys that was in there. I said, honey, you sound like you've had too much to drink. There was a couple of us that was like, yeah, she has. Yeah. It was like, and finally she shut the fuck up, but after the show was over, a lot of us was kind of like, what the fuck was up with that girl? What was she, and I told the people that we were next to, I was like, honestly, I think she had a hit of ecstasy, or something, because, I was really shocked that somebody, staff-wise from DC Improv, didn't try to go over and basically be like, okay, where is this little annoyance coming from? And basically talk to that girl, But she shut up after that. But I could tell Mick Foley really was trying to go in depth. He never really was able to kind of rebound and go back to that. I tell you what, he was able to rebound off of that very well. And he had a funny joke afterwards, because he said something about, I kind of take back what I said about not wanting to hurt women or something like it was something kind of,
Yeah, I don't remember
yeah,
verbatim what he was saying,
yeah.
but it was basically a jab.
It was a nice
at
little
her.
jab at her. It was a very nice jab. She shut the hell up after that, though. But it was a really great performance by this man. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I just went in there saying to myself, okay, I've read this man. I've read this man's books. I know he's an accomplished author. I know he can tell a really great story. I know he's charismatic as hell. I know every single time a microphone is put into his hand, he knows how to tell a story. I knew I was going to be getting great storytelling. I just wasn't sure how the comedy was. And the comedy was just, it was hilarious. I mean, like I said, and I still stand behind this, if he's not writing a sitcom yet for one of the major networks, he needs to be in the next couple of years, because I think the guy is just spot on, you know. And this was a welcoming breath of fresh air that was needed, especially after the horrific appearance by one Kevin Hart on WWE Raw earlier this week, which now brings me to my favorite part of this whole thing, which was getting the opportunity to meet Mick Foley himself. And I actually had that conversation with him. I told him, I said, man, it's an honor to meet you. Been a fan of yours for many years. And man, as I was talking to him, you know, he's like, it was just so, he was so, I really enjoyed it. It felt like time just stood still for that moment as me and him were talking, you know. And it was like everything about him, everything, as soon as I went to the table and I sat next to him, everything just became slow motion. And the way he just took out the blue pen, because I grabbed like 2 pictures for him to sign for me, and like it was just slow motion. He was like, "What's your name?" I say, "Lee, Lee." I say, "Yeah," and it was just slow motion. The way he just moved his hand, and he just starts talking to me, and then Tammy comes up, and I introduce Tammy to Mick, and Noelle's actually right there, you know, trying to get us to buy whatever merchandise. She's just there to help us out. Very sweet, extremely beautiful. I know Mick said he doesn't want to see her have a career as a WWE diva. He's trying to do his best to fight it, and I see why. She is very, very gorgeous. If she doesn't do the whole wrestling career, she's gonna have a great career in modeling, maybe even as an actress, you know. But I mean, she is stunning when you see her, to the point I was actually fumbling, you know, because I was like, wow, I kind of saw her from afar, and I was trying to figure out who that was. I was like, I think that's Mick Foley's daughter. And then even you kind of said, isn't that, I think that's his daughter, huh? And then it was kind of like, once I was right there looking at her face to face, then it clicked in my head, that's his daughter, you know. And everything was just in slow motion when I was right there with Mick Foley. And I told him, I said, you know, it was really great to see you here perform, especially after the horrific episode of Raw with Kevin Hart. Because I told him, I said, if WWE needed some real comedy, they should have gave you a call. And we started talking about how Kevin Hart, how his performance had sucked. And Mick Foley was like, he's a good comedian, but it's all about preparing. It's all about preparation. And he really should not have been like, what's this? What's that? And sound like you're familiar with the product, you know? And he was like, he just did not sound prepared. And it's so funny that Mick kept hammering that home, because I could tell with his routine, a lot of time, a lot of preparing. Not just, I'm the hardcore legend Mick Foley, I could tell he took his time with his routine, you know? And took a picture with him afterwards. And as you guys had probably saw on our Facebook page and on Twitter, picture that we got floating around with me and him in it. And it was just an awesome moment. Something I'll cherish for a long time. Actually in the process of getting the picture with me and him framed right now. And I've already got the 2 that he signed for me framed. And those are going to be hanging up proudly on my wall. But I have a newfound respect and appreciation for Mick Foley, because this is a guy, and I didn't notice until he said it, kind of like midway or maybe towards the end of the show. He did both of these nights in Washington, D.C. free. He didn't make not one dime. He basically was there to do the show to try to help raise money for r.a.i.n.n. And I mean, a lot of people have been very critical about some of the things that Mick Foley has said over the years, but I've never said anything bad about Mick Foley. I may disagree with one or two things that he may say from time to time about the WWE product on Facebook. It's okay to disagree, I always say. But at the end of the day, he's a cool, kick-ass human being. And I appreciate the fact that he's doing so much good that he's doing, not only with r.a.i.n.n, but other projects that he's involved in. And honestly, he just comes off to me like, you know, I can now kind of understand his position, like maybe why he didn't sign that new WWE Legends deal that they were trying to give to him, why he didn't want to have anything to do with the WWE network and all that. I think to a certain extent it will probably hinder him in the side projects that mean the most important to him.
Probably. And, you know, depending on what those projects are and whether he decides to get paid for them or do it as a charity, you know, benefit. That's his call. You know, you never know what's in those contracts and Legends deals. So whether it be beneficial or not so much, it just depends on the wrestler and, you know, what they want, you know, going forward.
Mick Foley's tour continues on. His next show is going to be coming up on June 27th in Massachusetts. He's going to be there for 2 nights at the, hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kowloon Restaurant. And then on July 5th, he's going to be in Kentucky at the Summer Motion Wrestling. July 11th, he's going to be in Victoria, Texas at Golden Gecko. On July 12th, he's going to be in Galveston, Texas at the Galveston Island Convention. And for more upcoming dates, see when he's going to be bringing his Hardcore Legend Tour to you, definitely head on over to his website at realmickfoley.com. One more time, that's realmickfoley.com. You can follow him on Twitter at the same name. And he's on Facebook at, you guessed it, Mick Foley. So, but yeah, great experience that was.